So coming back to the next phase of DD, what have we got on that checklist of yours?
All right, so I'm going to pull the checklist up, and I'm actually just going to ramble for a couple minutes of kind of giving you an idea of what type of documents you need. Just this is going to sound a bit overwhelming to people, so download the checklist. But like, for instance, for the site, you need site plan, floor plans, as-built drawings of the building, parking schedules, land tax assessment, inventory list, council documents, management agreements, certificate of currency, which is the building insurance, body corporate report, title reference and property title search, details of easements, restrictions, drainage and sewer diagrams, details of shared access or right-of-way arrangements. That's actually probably quite a good one as well. If you're buying retail, sometimes there's shared driveways and things like that you need to be mindful of. So that's just the documents for the site. Then you've got OH&S. So that's hazardous materials register and reports, details of hazardous materials stored on site, and any construction materials on this property as well. So you've got to get that as well. Then you've got service contracts. So based on what you're buying, if you're buying like multi-tenanted tenanted property, or you're getting like a body corporate one, you want to look at roof maintenance, air conditioning maintenance, lift and escalator maintenance, interior plants maintenance, outdoor landscaping, cleaning maintenance, hazardous waste removal, rubbish removal, parking contracts, property management contracts, security contracts, and utility contracts. So you've got that as well. Then in regards to like looking at, we mentioned before, you want comparable sales, comparable rentals, foot and road traffic analysis, historical occupancy study, and vacancy periods. For council and town planning, you want to look at the development consents and conditions, construction certificates, occupation certificates, building certificates, fire safety certificates, heritage listed documents, and conservation documents. Then you've got zoning, type of zoning, future potential zoning, information from town planner. Then you need to assess value add opportunities if you're buying like a freestanding site or body corporate, like where you can do mezzanines and solar panels. So it's like changing the use, raising rents, improving the quality and image of the property, creating new sources of revenue, marketing the property, removing underperforming tenants, better property management, and development potential as well. So like, that's just me rambling some of the key ones. There's actually another 3 pages. So I won't go through all those. I realized how long it's actually going to take. You've got rental ledgers and documents, identity check of the business, proof of payments, evidence of assets, reference of the tenant's previous landlords. Then there's a whole business analysis. So that's where you kind of like ask the questions of like who the tenant is, how long they've been operating, do they have any other like locations? All those questions I mentioned before about finding out the negatives of the property. So there's about 20 questions there. Then you got lease review. So that you'll pay a solicitor. Then you'll also do your own lease review, and you'll look at like, has there been any subleases, amendments, rental abatements, what licensing they have, what car parks, what guarantees, what evidence of payments, what fixtures and fittings they have, what depreciation schedules, lease details, rent review. Then there's security, check all the security. Then there's fit out and make good clauses. Then there's insurances. Then there's the outgoing check. Then there's the repairs and maintenance check, assignment and subleasing. Then there's tax, and then there's special conditions. And then there's photos, videos, building and pest inspections, and then we are done. Whew, that was a mouthful.
That was great, Steve. Thank you. So, guys, clearly...
I rambled. Get the spreadsheet. I left out about half of it, but I was just so you didn't listen to me for 10 minutes rambling.
Yeah, we might get that due diligence checklist. It's on your website anyway, if they want to just go.
Bring on the website, chuck it on your website, put it in the show notes. Yeah. What do we need?
Like, it's really key, because there's you can say there's so much there, and even one mistake on like something in this due diligence test can cost you like 20 grand, right? Like, and that's where it's like, well, you know your worth, as Steve said, like, you know your worth, and that you're providing a lot more value than what the fees you're charging. And yeah,
you don't have to do it all. Like, there's been plenty of investors that have done all right from not doing it as detailed as me. But for me, like, if I'm spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'm going to do the extra 10, 20 hours work just to kind of cross-check. Mainly, not so much. A lot of these ones I actually don't get the documents, or I actually find like there's a negative with it, but it's another negotiating tool. If I can get a client on my own property an extra 20, 30 grand off, like, that's a year's worth of savings for some people. Like, just because I've had like all these red flags. But as I mentioned at the start, focus on the fundamentals first, like where the property is, what the demand is, do the big stuff like what's the condition of the building, check there's no special levies, get your building and pest inspection, which I probably should have mentioned at the start. Building and pest inspection and body corporate review are obviously the big ones. And make sure holistically it's fine. If you find something like, the tenant missed a payment or something like that, it's not ideal, but it's not going to bankrupt you. Like, so make sure the area and the asset type is the most important thing.
How far back do you go with tenant ledgers? Like, if you get access to that?
24 months normally, but minimum I generally ask for 12 months, just to as much as you can get. It's a case by case. If the tenant's been there for 10 years and you see from the last 6 months they've paid every time, I probably won't push for 12 months because I know I'm going to talk to them. And if they're like, yeah, we're happy here, paying rent on time, and we've got from the owner that they are paying rent on time, there's that. Where that actually became a real big issue was at the start of COVID, obviously. Like I had to see the rental ledgers to make a commitment because with commercial, the lease doesn't necessarily get updated. So there could have been, the owner could have been giving a rental concession of no rent or reduced rent or a payback system or something like that. So there was much more critical then. But now that we're a little bit through that, it's generally the 6 to 12 months will give me some assurance.
What did it get? No, what COVID in my mind just brings it. If you could pay your rent through COVID, that's a really strong sign of a solid tenant. Is that sort of what you think?
Yeah, it is as well. But then I actually found a lot of the really strong tenants just use it as an excuse to actually to get a rental reduction. But it depends what you're buying. Like I personally have a cafe. So I actually gave him a rental concession during COVID, and I just did it simply. I actually got him to send me his financial statements based on like what went through the till effectively. And I gave him a percentage. So if his business dropped by 50%, I gave him 50% rest rent. So that way he's kind of still surviving all right. Yes, what I'm sure, and I'm positive he's probably done this, is anything that came in cash into the till didn't go into the books. It went into his back pocket instead. But again, he liked me and stayed on because of that. And I actually got him to sign a longer lease because of it.
Did he paint that one?
Which would have increased the value of the
That's actually, I mentioned that on the previous podcast. Yeah, that's the one he's painted as well. That was actually really just prior to COVID as well. So maybe that hurt his cash flow a little bit.